35 missiles got through. Not one, not two. 35 ballistic missiles breached the most expensive, most sophisticated, most celebrated air defense system on the planet, and several of them found exactly what Iran's targeting officers sent them to find. Beit Shemesh, 20 kilometers west of Jerusalem, a city of 150,000 people, military infrastructure in ruins, residential windows shattered across entire neighborhoods, ambulances running, families who had spent the night in shelters emerging to find a city that looked different than the one they went to sleep in. This is not rhetoric. This is not speculation. This is confirmed by Israeli media, by Israeli military sources, by the smoke columns that no official communique can erase. My name is George Valamont. I am a geopolitical analyst, and I have spent decades watching the Middle East accumulate the pressure that just exploded. Today I am going to tell you exactly what happened, exactly what the numbers mean, and exactly what nobody in an official position wants to say out loud. If you've never watched this channel before, stay until the end, because what I'm about to tell you affects you directly, whether you live in Paris, Lagos, São Paulo, or Seoul. Let me give you the facts, not the spin. The facts. Iran launched more than 200 ballistic missiles from its own territory in a single engagement window. Israel's integrated air defense, the Iron Dome, the David Sling, the Arrow system, intercepted approximately 85% of them. Every Israeli spokesperson will lead with that 85%. And technically, they're right to. 85% is an extraordinary interception rate. Under any previous framework of analysis, it would represent a defensive success. But here is the number they don't lead with: 15%. 15% of 200 missiles is 30 to 35 projectiles that crossed the border, descended on Israeli territory, and hit things. And here is the brutal arithmetic of saturation warfare. It doesn't matter that you stopped 170 missiles if the 30 that got through reached their targets. They reached their targets. This is what the Iron Dome's architects never fully solved. The system works brilliantly until the volume of simultaneous incoming threats exceeds what the system can physically process and intercept in a single engagement cycle. At that point, the algorithm does exactly what it was designed to do. It prioritizes. It assigns interceptors to the highest probability threats against the highest value targets. And everything that falls below the threshold in that processing window continues on its trajectory. Several trajectories terminated at Beit Shemesh. And here is the detail that should make every defense analyst in the world stop and think. This is not the first time.
Iran, please stop! We lose, you win!
The same vulnerability.
Please stop!
The saturation threshold was tested. The gap was identified. And in the 8 months between that war and this attack, Israel did not close it. The missiles that struck Beit Shemesh are the direct consequence of that failure to act on a known, demonstrated, previously exploited weakness. That is not a harsh judgment. That is the record. The United States, warning given, disaster not prevented. American intelligence knew this attack was coming. Hours before the first Iranian drone lifted off, U.S. officials communicated to their Israeli counterparts that a major strike was imminent. Israeli defensive readiness was elevated. Iron Dome batteries were activated. Civilians were directed to shelters. The warning infrastructure, one of the genuine strengths of the American-Israeli alliance, functioned exactly as it was designed to function, and 35 missiles still got through. This gap between a warning that worked and an outcome that failed is the most important sentence about this alliance that anyone has said in years. The coordination between Washington and Tel Aviv is real. It is deep. It is technically sophisticated. And it was not sufficient to prevent what happened at Beit Shemesh. Now add this. Iran claims it successfully struck an American naval vessel in the region using hypersonic missiles. If that claim is confirmed, and American officials have not fully denied it, then we are no longer talking about a regional conflict between Israel and Iran. We are talking about a regional actor in direct kinetic engagement with the armed forces of the United States of America. The strategic architecture of the post-Gulf War Middle East was built on one foundational assumption: that no regional actor would directly engage American military forces because the cost of doing so was prohibitively, terminally high. That assumption has functioned as the invisible ceiling on regional escalation for 30 years. Iran may have just put its fist through that ceiling. And I want you to understand what that means. Not for military planners in Washington, but for you. If the deterrence structure that has contained this conflict for 3 decades has been functionally challenged, the range of what happens next expands dramatically. Not just militarily, economically. The Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's traded oil passes, is already disrupted. The Brent crude price jumped more than 3% in 24 hours. That number travels. It reaches fuel pumps, food prices, shipping costs, and household budgets on every continent. This conflict is not contained to the people currently dying in it. What nobody wants to say. I need to say something now that will make some viewers uncomfortable. I'm going to say it anyway because intellectual honesty is the only thing that makes this kind of analysis worth doing. The day before the missiles hit Beit Shemesh, Israeli and American forces conducted the strike that killed Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran. Not a general, not a proxy commander operating in a third country. The supreme leader. The figure in whom the Islamic Republic vests not merely political authority, but religious legitimacy. The living representative in Shia doctrine of divine guidance on earth. Killing Khamenei was not a tactical decision. It was an act that crossed a threshold no Israeli or American action had previously crossed. And crossing that threshold made the response that followed not just likely, not just predictable. It made it structurally, theologically, politically inevitable. There is no version of Iranian political reality in which the killing of the supreme leader goes unanswered. The people who made this decision had to know that. Whether they accepted the consequences as necessary or failed to fully internalize what they were triggering, I don't know. Either answer is deeply troubling. And I also need to say this. One of the targets struck in that operation was a primary school in an Iranian city. 67 girls were killed. An entire classroom. I will not contextualize that away. I will not perform the analytical convenience of noting proximity to military targets. Those are 67 children who went to school that morning and did not come home. Any analysis of this conflict that does not include that fact is not serious analysis. It is advocacy dressed as analysis. The civilians of Beit Shemesh, the families who spent the night in shelters, the children growing up to the sound of air raid sirens, the people whose windows were shattered by blast overpressure from intercepted missiles falling on residential streets. They are real. And so are those 67 girls. A serious reckoning with this conflict must hold both realities at the same time.